Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis that isn't beholden to any mainstream media source. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. And today, we're going to be ripping Allan Lichtman a new one once again. And so this guy is now going on to every single podcast and likes to think that he's Jesus Christ or something. And now he's saying that people are committing blasphemy against him. And you'll never actually guess who he's saying that about. He's saying that about Cenk Uygur, out of all people, the far leftist that's over there at the Young Turks. But we're actually going to go ahead and play this clip because I think it's absolutely hilarious as to how funny this clip is of Cenk just completely ripping Allan a new one live on television. So I'm going to play it for you right now.
Look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not
find
right,
him
and
before
I
the
was
election.
not wrong. And that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who
You
won?
want to make your
You
point,
live
make your
in a
point.
total
Don't make it
world of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with
right.
your personal
Yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever
Okay.
point you want.
Yeah.
Don't
Look,
make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know
You
anything.
attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been
13
able
books.
to finish a
How
thought.
many books have you published? No, because you're personally attacking me.
It's so funny. I love how he tries to use his academia and the fact that he's published so many books as to claim that he's a better expert at this than Cenk. You could argue that even I'm a better expert at elections than this guy is now with the way he's been acting for years. This guy could literally shove his PhD up his ass. I don't understand why he thinks that just because he's a professor and an expert on elections that he just thinks that now he's the expert at it. I don't understand, because my stuff is all mathematical. I can draw my own conclusions as to why my math was showing certain things about the election, which, by the way, in about 39 out of the 57 states/districts, I was within 5 points of calling the margin in the state, and I only got 48 out of 50 states correct, with Minnesota and New Hampshire being wrong. I had them going red because I thought he was going to win the popular vote by 3 to 4. I thought he was going to do significantly better in the popular vote, and my system still needed to be refined, which I found that afterwards, and we're actually already working on a new system that goes county by county instead of state by state for 2028, and I'll do a future video about that. So that'll be pretty interesting to look at. But guys, this guy was dead wrong, just dead wrong. He said that his keys, which are 13 true or false questions, basically went to Harris. And if you look at them objectively and use his own criteria for grading them, you'd actually see that, no, he is wrong. In fact, Trump should be winning his system. And so we're going to keep playing the clip.
Again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to stand for
brother, you got it wrong.
Say
you were
whatever
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just finish a goddamn thought ever on this show?
No, not if you personally.
Well,
I admitted I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
I'll just say it's great to see you Democrats all getting along so well.
Who taught you manners?
It's lovely to see your
Can I finish a goddamn point?
We're just
Allan, right now. Hey, Allan, you just...
I love that he's just bro, I gotta clip that. That's the only Cenk clip we're gonna have on the channel. Absolutely hilarious. It's so funny. This was hilarious.
Deserve a total.
Even Harry is
so can you just shut up for a second?
This. It's hilarious.
And let someone who knows what they're doing.
You're so right, Pierre.
You're so right. We're so unified right now.
Okay. So I will not sit here and stand for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do that. You don't
blasphemy against you. What the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ? You loser.
Yeah, bro, guys.
Okay,
freaking election god complex. Look, even Harry's getting nervous. Even Harry was getting nervous during this clip. Look at him. He's jittering in his seat. But no, yeah, guys. This guy, Nate Silver, I believe I already did a video on him. I'm pretty sure I did do one. And then we're gonna go over Let's Talk Elections. We're not done with him yet. We're gonna go after him too, and a bunch of other people. We're gonna be making fun of a bunch of predictions. Trust me, we are. I know it's been far out of the election, but we're gonna be roasting some people big time. But looking at this, like, look, even Harry's like, oh man, this is getting pretty intense. But yeah, this guy has some sort of God complex. He thinks he's like Jesus or something when it comes to elections. What I do is I apply the accurate polling, and I have my system which helped me call a lot of the states correct. And not only that, it actually helped me get the popular vote at least within 3 points. Did I overshoot him in the popular vote? Yes, but I still got it within 3 points. And on top of that, I got 39 or 37 out of the 57 states / districts basically within 5 points, which in an election like this was actually pretty difficult to do, by the way. That was actually quite hard to accomplish because this election, a lot of people thought it was going to be the exact same thing as 2020. I mean, I don't know why people thought that, but that's what people had in their heads. People just thought that this was magically going to be like 2020. But if you actually look at the keys and you apply them properly and you see what they actually should have looked like, this is what they would have ended up looking like. You would have ended up having, roughly give or take, you would have had 9 keys for Trump, 4 for Kamala Harris. The ones that he got wrong, in my opinion, again, if you were to actually do a recorrected version of this, is the no primary contest. He had that true for the incumbent party, the Democrats, but they literally removed the sitting president with basically against the will of the voters. They literally removed him against the will of the voters. And that is a primary contest. A candidate won the primary and you're removing the candidate from the spot because they forced him out of the race. Even Allan admits that the media was trying to get him out, which they were, but not to their convenience. It was only once it was not convenient for them to run with him anymore that then they decided to get rid of him. But and that part he won't talk about. He's always acting like they've always trashed him when they really never always did. They always stuck up for him quite a bit. Now is when they're starting to trash him big time. But when you're looking at this, short-term economy, long-term economy, those were not true. This is false. These are horrible. I mean, the voters don't feel like it's good right now. And what's going to be more accurate, Professor Lichtman? The data online or the way the voters actually feel? Because when you go vote, they're not going to think, the GDP says that the economy actually went up by 5% this year. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just vote for the incumbent party because, the economy on paper is actually a lot better, even though I'm paying way more for products. Like, really? You're telling me that that's how every voter is supposed to go vote? Which he actually, now it's the voters are too irrational and they're clogged with disinformation because Elon Musk bought Twitter and he's a billionaire who's deciding to team up with Trump as if the Democrats don't have George Soros, they don't have Mark Cuban, they don't have all these people combined that are richer than Elon Musk put together. So I don't really understand why he's acting like it's only happening on the Republican side. I mean, yeah, Elon Musk is a rich guy who's now teaming up with Trump, but so is George Soros with freaking Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Like, I don't want to hear it I don't want to hear it anymore from this guy. He's acting like in a complete la-la land. No social unrest. Like, man, like this guy is just like, so he said there's no social unrest at all. And that's what he's saying. He had it true. There's no social unrest, even though a former president literally was almost assassinated live on television. If that's not going to create social unrest, I don't know what will. And it's regardless of what administration it is. This does not have to do whether it's Republican or Democrat, because this isn't a candidate-based system besides the 2 charisma keys at the bottom. But if we look at this, we see here he had major foreign/military success. True. How? There's more war going on now than in the last administration. The last administration had no new foreign war started. This one had the Ukraine and Russia war and the Israel and Palestine war happen, or Israel-Hamas, whatever you want to call it. And I have no scandal true because technically he has stuck to the definition correctly of there being there has to be an actual impeachment. And he's always been pretty consistent about that. And so I'll just give him that one true, even though you could argue that that one's also false. 7, he's also stuck with that pretty consistently. Third party, they technically didn't get over 5%. So I'm going to leave that true. an uncharismatic challenger. Yes, Trump is a charismatic guy. However, Allan has actually stuck with the definition of that key. He says that the candidate has to have a 60% approval rating or higher for that key to be true, or for that key to basically end up being false, or whatever the case is. The candidate has to have a 60% approval rating or higher for them to be a charismatic figure. So that's essentially what he's got going on there. And even that's a little bit subjective, but we see here that Trump should really be having 9 out of the 13 keys. And this guy was just dead wrong. He was dead wrong. And then when he did his math prediction and he said that Harris was going to win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, but with Nevada and Arizona, he had the other ones going blue because he looked at the early voting and said, actually, women are voting way more than last time, forgetting that more women vote early. And he's looking at the split between them to decide whether or not the states are going to go blue or red. And then what's even funnier is that in Wisconsin, he's like, the population's actually 2% other. So that means there's a lot of transgenders that are going to push the state to Kamala Harris. He literally said that. He's a professor at Harvard who's been doing this for 40 years. And he said the reason why Harris was going to win Wisconsin is because the population there is like 2 to 4%. They didn't choose a gender according to the early voting. Like there's some percentage that's missing. And so because of that, she magically was going to win Wisconsin because of that. It's absolutely preposterous. And now he's saying that this is the fault of the voter. They were too immersed in disinformation, and they were too immersed in, the X platform because Elon Musk bought it. And so it changed the whole atmosphere, which it did. He's not wrong, but it's not disinformation. If anything, it actually made the public square more even. New polling data came out today that Democrats outnumbered Republicans like 65 to 35 on X. And now it's about even now. And so, yes, there's less people using it, but the public square is now perfectly divided in half now. And so you get real, true representation of what the electorate actually looks like in the country. And also, a lot of people were getting banned on X anyways in 2020 and 2021, which that's a completely different story. But essentially, yeah, this guy is completely wrong. He's blaming the voters for being too racist, apparently. Apparently, they're too racist or too xenophobic or sexist. Well, if that was true, they wouldn't have elected a Lyndon B. Johnson. His keys would have ended up having a Barry Goldwater winning, assuming that his keys would have been correct before, acting as if the bigotry, sexism, and racism wasn't bigger back then than it is now, which objectively speaking, it's less worse now than it was back then. I mean, we literally used to segregate white and black people before. Now we don't do that. So how is he going to sit here and say that the racism, the sexism, and everything is now going to start affecting his keys? If they were going to affect his keys now, then they should have been affecting his keys the entire time anyway. So it's just absolutely ridiculous to me how this guy is now blaming the American people for voting for a president and now saying, they're actually the fault why the keys don't work anymore. He literally said this verbatim. My judgment of the keys is not flawed. It's the system that failed because the voters are no longer pragmatic. The electorate's not pragmatic enough anymore for the keys. And so now they don't work. Well, Professor Lichtman, no one's going to take you serious now, because now if you pick the Democrat to win the race, everyone's just going to be like, oh, yeah, he's Team Democrat. He's a Democrat. You are Democrat. You literally ran in a Democrat primary in Maryland. Like, I'll sit here and say I'm a Republican. And yes, you've said you're a Democrat before, but my work has been way more unbiased than your work has been this year. I mean, we can literally go and look at this. We can literally look at this. Look, guys, look at my scorecard. And I have to update these again because some of the ballots have been counted. Like Alaska fell under 15. But guys, I was within 3 points in Alabama. I was within a point in Alaska, within 2 in Arizona. My margin's on the left, mine's on the right. Within 3 in California, within a couple points in Arkansas, but I still called it safe, essentially. District of Columbia, a couple points off. That's my biggest error, 13 points off, but still a safe Democrat seat. Like, the point is, I still called it being safe. Same thing for Hawaii. Georgia, I had it likely R. Instead, it was lean R. Oh, well. What a biggie. Florida, way more accurate, literally off by less than 1%. Illinois, I'm going to be off by like about 2 because she won it by about 10 or so, is about to win it by 10. Idaho, you could see it literally within 0.1. Iowa within 3 points. Indiana within a few points. Kansas within a couple points there. Kentucky within 3. Louisiana within 7, but still got the safe call correct. Maine, I was off in Maine quite a bit. I didn't expect it to trend to the left, but my system for 2028 is going to be far more sophisticated in predicting these kind of elections. Looking at, you see Maryland and Massachusetts, I was actually on the money in these, literally on the money in some of these. I think maybe the margins updated a little bit, but I was basically on the money and literally off by less than a point in Maryland and Massachusetts. Michigan here, we see I was within 5. I thought he was going to do better because I overestimated him with blacks and Asians, and I overestimated him with whites a little bit, but I actually underestimated him with Hispanics, funny enough. Minnesota, we actually see that I had it going red, but I called it within margin of error. I mean, it wasn't like it was a 10-point win and I called it going red. It could have gone red this cycle. New Hampshire, within 3 points of calling it, really. Nevada, I was 2 points off. Nebraska, second, basically 3 points off, but I called it right. Nebraska, I was pretty wrong in Nebraska. It's a lot more left-leaning than I anticipated it to be. Montana, you see I was within 2 points of the actual result. Missouri, within roughly 5, but still a little bit outside the margin of error. North Carolina had it going way redder than it was. It ended up being like 3.4 instead. We see New Jersey. I actually called that one. And New Mexico, I'm basically within 3 of the result. We could see New Jersey. I was actually off in the left direction in New Jersey, by the way, which is pretty interesting. And we even see North Dakota. I was within 3 points. Oh, we can keep going. Ohio, basically within, a couple points. Yes, I had it going safe, but like really, I had the actual margin was like 12 or 11, and I had it 16. That's not like abysmal. Yes, it's off, but it's not abysmal. Still got the state call and roughly got it correct. Oklahoma, not within 5, but still got the safe call correct. Oregon, basically within a couple points. The real margin was D plus 13. I had D plus 9. So within 3-ish. PA, within about 4 points. Again, had it way more redder. You could even see I had Trump plus 3.2 in the popular vote here, it seems. And the actual popular vote is roughly, give or take, going to be like 1.5 or something like that. So basically off by less than 2 in the popular vote, give or take. Rhode Island, we see here within 2 points in Rhode Island. South Carolina within 2. South Dakota within 3-ish. Tennessee within 2. Texas literally 0.2% off. Wisconsin was a bad miss, but again, I overestimated him with whites. Virginia within 3 or 4 points in the state. Vermont within about, a couple points. Utah within 5. So for this being my first election, the only abysmal misses I had was Washington. That was abysmal because it was basically safe and I had it likely. Like, that was a bad miss. That was a pretty bad miss. Maine, I had pretty bad misses in. Nebraska, funny enough, the Nebraska's first district, I actually had a pretty bad miss there. And in like District of Columbia, I had an abysmal miss. But those are like my only like abysmal misses for like the entire cycle is Washington and Hawaii. These are like my only completely bad misses. And the average error is roughly like 3.7 across the country. And when I grade myself, I get about an 84% when I look at how many state calls I got correct and how many states I got within 5 points of a margin of error. So I basically get an 84%, give or take, when I grade myself. So clearly, I did significantly better than most people. I've been saying for the longest time that he was going to win the popular vote, that he was going to win the electoral college. I had been saying that for a long time now. And so me doing it mathematically, which it should be done that way instead of with these 13 true or false questions, when you do it this way, you can be more accurate than a professor at Harvard who's been doing this for 40 years. I'm just saying, I was literally more accurate than a professor at Harvard who's been doing this for 40 years, who's supposedly like an all-God expert at this. And so I just felt like I had to make another video because this guy, his ego is just off the charts. Just off the charts. It's insane how this guy, oh, the blasphemy against me. Allan, you are not Jesus Christ. You're not God. Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you sitting there blaming the American people for supposedly is the reason why your system was wrong? They're not pragmatic enough for you. Well, unfortunately, your thinking process about your keys aren't pragmatic enough for anybody because you got it wrong. You were wrong, and you can't own up to the fact that you're biased or that you were probably paid off and that they were going to rig it again, which they tried to do it. I mean, they're literally counting illegal ballots for McCormick right now. They admitted that they're literally counting ballots that are not postmarked on time, and they're counting the ballots. They literally admitted to counting the ballots in real time just to get McCormick down. And it's not going to happen because it's actually mathematically impossible with all the outstanding ballots for McCormick to lose now. So even if they pulled out all of these disqualified ballots, McCormick would still win by 300 votes. So if they did it for that, who's to say they didn't do it for the presidential race? And like Rasmussen Reports has said, why have the swing states only moved like 1 or 2 points to the right when all these deep blue states all moved like super Republican? It doesn't make any sense. Yes, there's more money spent in the swing states. Yes, minority groups did move to Trump a little bit more, or a decent amount more actually, than white voters did. That's true. But Wisconsin has same-day registration. You don't think they took advantage of that? Like, it makes no sense that the swing states only move that little. So if anything, it's kind of funny how I'm like within 3 points in like all these states except the swing states. Somehow in my scorecard, I was basically within 3 points in every single state except the battleground states. Magically, I was wrong in the battleground states, but in Texas, Florida, Ohio, Iowa, New Jersey, and New York, I somehow get all the margins within 2 or 3 points. Like, really, there is a plausibility that they did try rigging it again. And so I'm not surprised that they could have paid you and try to make it seem like, oh, wow, she actually won. See, I was right. Because they didn't just pay you. They paid Ann Seltzer, or I don't know if you got paid, but I'm just saying. It may have not just been you. They paid Ann Seltzer for sure. Why would she put out a Harris +3? They obviously paid for her retirement. Why would she put out a Harris +3 poll in Iowa? Why would she do that? You even knew that that would be wrong. You even would know that. Why would she do that? Nate Silver gyrating all over the place with his little graph. I had Trump winning the popular vote the whole year, regardless of what the margin was. I had him winning the entire year in the popular vote, the whole year. He was never down to Kamala Harris in the popular vote. And neither was he against Joe Biden, by the way. Joe Biden would have gotten crushed. He probably would have lost by like 360 plus electoral votes for Trump. So, guys, this is the end of the mainstream media, the end of these aristocratic, elitist professors dictating how they think presidential elections should work. Because, again, it's not up to him. It's not up to them. It's up to the voters. And my job is to give you the accurate polling information and say, hey, this is probably how it's going to play out in the swing states. Am I going to be off by a couple points? Yeah, sure. No one is perfect. But clearly, way better of a modeler than Nate Silver, who had Harris winning in his model on the last day. He herded to Harris on the last day. She was the favorite in the model by like 0.1%. So you got that wrong. And the average electoral college result showed Harris winning. So that's wrong too. So I was a better modeler than Nate Silver anyway. So he's done. Allan Lichtman, you're done. Like, and Seltzer's done. Like, a bunch of people are done. And now it's my turn to be able to do the job properly and giving everybody the accurate polling information and the best political news, which, guys, now from Monday through Friday, starting next week, I am going to be doing a primetime show at 8 p.m. where I'm going to be going live, going over daily political information. We're going to be looking at BT News. We're going to be looking at Twitter, what's trending on Twitter. We're going to be doing all of that. We're going to be keeping the channel engaged. I still want to run this, guys, so make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this clip from the podcast, hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this.